that camera is perched precariously. Anything could happen, really. Well, not anything. The camera might fall down. Well, what have we got in the last 24 hours? Been absolutely crazy, but there's a few really interesting takes on what went on with Graham Potter and Nuno Espirito Santo yesterday. It's quite clear from whichever take you want to look at, that the club are in absolute disarray at the moment, completely disjointed, and what is going on at the top of the club, it is no better than it was, after the loss to Crystal Palace, or a week before that, We are still being run by a man in particular, a man who just doesn't know what he's doing. He cannot plot a way forward for West Ham in any way that's proactive. Everything is so reactive. Just get this right. I make the point again and again. Graham Potter, I thought was absolutely useless, and he needed to go. But the point is he never should have been appointed in the first place. So here we are again, and I find myself sort of scratching around trying to look for positives. Now, there's a really interesting story in The Athletic, which basically talks about the surprise the players had yesterday morning. Now, the squad is split, but Graham Potter was popular among a lot of players. I think it's fair to say Jarrod Bowen got on really well with him. Max Kilman, obviously James Ward-Prowse is going to be an obvious one, but it was more than that. There were a lot of players who did like Potter, but there's also no doubt there were a lot of them that didn't like Potter, didn't get on with him. Todibo didn't get on with him at all. I mentioned about my vlog that I did on Patreon. You can see that. We discussed that in there. You can see Füllkrug. You can see Todibo in the dugout. They're not happy at all. They didn't get on with him. They wanted him out. Luis Guilherme as well. The stories also come out today about Emerson being forced to train with the under-21s because Potter tried to discipline him for poor punctuality, basically. Todibo had been called into Potter's office and been given a rollicking. So there was that. You also had an issue where even the players that liked Potter had sort of lost faith with his tactics. I think by the time we could spend ages sort of just discussing all that stuff, but you come to the conclusion that even the ones that liked him would probably agree that it was time to go. Nobody was seeing anything to suggest that a change was just around the corner. As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, West Ham weren't getting better. We were getting worse, and Graham Potter was making players worse. But the ultimate fault is not really his. It's still what's going on at the top of the club, which leaves you in a situation where you're thinking, can the person that comes in work in spite of all that stuff? Now, we saw it with David Moyes that he was able to, for a period at least, and you're going to need that. So there's this big, it's not even a suspicion at the moment. I think most people know that Nuno Espirito Santo likes to use George Mendes as his agent. Now, ordinarily, this is a problem because you have a preferred agent. This is something that we're looking to get rid of at West Ham. But I do wonder if it's a case of, are we looking to get rid of any preferred agent, or is it just Will Salthouse? I think we might actually need to do this because our recruitment has been so bad for so long. There's sort of differing reports that Carl McCauley's still there, that Carl McCauley's left. Carl McCauley's going. Carl McCauley will not stay at West Ham. You can actually see it. It eats away at Sullivan any time he has to have somebody there that has any sort of authority over transfers. He doesn't want it. He didn't want Tim Steighton, and Tim Steighton to an extent was forced upon him, as I believe at the time, by Daniel Kretinsky, and I think even Jack Sullivan alluded to that in his. He did a podcast with Karen Brady, and he alluded to it in that Daniel Kretinsky had indeed. He said did the first interview with Tim Steighton, which would indicate that it was his pick. It never sat comfortably with Sullivan. The moment Sullivan could get rid of Steighton, he did. So he was looking for problems. The same thing, I think, with McCauley. I think one of the conditions of Potter taking a job was that West Ham would hire McCauley. We'd have to pay compensation from Chelsea, which was £1 million, which was massively overpaid, by the way. He was only a data analyst there. No one pays that sort of stuff for a data analyst. You really don't. But I guess Sullivan felt compelled to do it because at this occasion it was Karen Brady who was very much pushing for West Ham to hire Potter. I mean, the whole thing just looks a mess now, but as soon as he was able to get rid of McCauley, He will. Now, I suspect because of the compensation, because he wasn't brought in immediately as one of Graham Potter's backroom team, the severance is probably slightly different. But I've no doubt that it's nothing more than that. If it is being delayed by a couple of days, it's nothing more than that. So we've got a situation now where Nuno is going to come in and he's going to have George Mendes bring his players in for him. What I would suggest is a lot of good players were brought in at Wolves and a lot of good players were brought in at Nottingham Forest. Is it an ideal way to do it? No, but you may well find it's the only way that we are able to get anything remotely approaching a balanced squad, and it's going to be really, really important to see how well supported Nuno is, basically with money in January. That's going to be really important. I found it, can't have been the only one, absolutely terrifying yesterday watching the results come in, and okay, in the end, Leeds got a draw, but you're looking at a lot of these teams. Wolves were winning right until the end as well, and you're thinking, wow, we've chosen a really bad season to be crap, because ordinarily you can, in recent years, if you go back to when we got relegated under Roda, I think we got relegated with 41, 42 points, something like that. And that used to be it. More than 40 points would keep you safe. And that maybe was an exceptional year. More recently, the teams at the bottom of the Premier League have been such whooping boys that actually, on some occasions, the low 30s have been enough to keep you safe. I doubt that'll happen this season. West Ham have chosen a really, really bad time to be crap. And that has to go down to just successive poor upper management from David Sullivan and Karen Brady. Have the managers been crap? Yes, but someone appoints them. Now, I do think we've got a good manager. Now, it's whether he can work within the parameters of this club, because it's not like every club that Nuno has been at has been brilliant. I mean, he struggled at Tottenham, didn't he? So you just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. What was interesting was this story that it was in The Athletic that I was alluded to at the start of the video. So yesterday, it turns out that the players turned up for training. They were meant to start training at the usual time, whatever it was, 10 o'clock or whenever that might be. And it got delayed. They were told it'd be delayed. And then Graham Potter kept on walking in and out of a meeting room, looking dazed, looking confused, looking a bit zombified, actually. And the players were thinking, well, what the hell's going on here? In the end, he was told that he'd been dismissed. He went back in. He said his goodbyes. The players apparently were left in this, whatever, I don't know, it was meeting room, canteen, wherever they were. The players were left in there thinking, what the hell is going on? And then one of the staff members from the training ground went in, not a football coach, one of the admin staff, I don't know, went in and said a coach will be taking training today. But unless I've misread the article totally, it seemed to imply that even at that point, the players weren't told, Graham's gone and Nuno's coming in and he'll be taking training. It was a case of, right, you don't know, nobody go home. You will have training today and there will be a coach taking training. Nuno rocks up, apparently, and everyone's thinking, what the hell's going on here? Look, that's my understanding. Do I know? No, of course I don't. I wasn't there. I wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo. But that's just what you hear has gone on. There anyway. I mean, an absolute mess, an absolute shambles. Once again, West Ham managed to do the wrong thing. And I don't mean by replacing Graham Potter, just the way it was done, letting him take the press conference. Well, I don't know why we do that. It's so crass. I mean, it really, really is. Just, I think, look, can you cancel the press conference? No, you can't, but I guess you can put the head of media up there. You can do something else. You don't have to let Potter take that press conference knowing full well that he's not going to be there. What I would say about Potter is he took that press conference very much thinking that he was going to be there. As he thought, you could tell, he thought he was going to be in charge for the Everton game. Did he know he was under pressure? Absolutely. But yeah, I just find the whole situation really, really weird. And it just goes to show, even if Nuno does succeed at West Ham, this stuff will happen again. And I mean, you certainly look at Espirito Santo and you don't see a manager that stays anywhere for a long period of time. He's not. Well, just look at his record. He doesn't. He moves around, doesn't he? So when he does eventually move from West Ham, it's going to be, we're going to have the same problem again. I actually think Sullivan's got worse. I do. I think he's got worse. I hope for the best. I hope for the best under Nuno. I really, really do. I don't buy into this. I've mentioned it on yesterday's video. I don't buy into this whole theory that he can't get anything. He's got completely the wrong type of players. I don't. I think he's got some of the players that are right for him. I think he's got some of the players that can play counter-attacking football. And I think Bowen, Somerville, Fernandes, Paqueta are going to be a big part of that. Can he sort out? If he can sort out the defence, we've got half a chance because we will be able to score goals. And I think if he can get to January, then he can buy that central defender we desperately need, and whatever, bring in players and those those other positions that are going to help West Ham. It's going to be tough though. It's going to be a really, really tough season, and it's weird. Even watching yesterday, I felt once I heard he'd been appointed and Potter had been sacked, I became more positive. I don't know if anyone else had this yesterday, but I became more positive that we would stay up. Then once I started seeing the results coming through, I became less so. Definitely, I started to worry again. I think it's going to be like that. I think even if you manage to string a couple of wins together, you're still going to be in trouble, or close to trouble. It's not going to take much to drop you back down there. Wolves will consider themselves unlucky, and I did. I couldn't help, because you're watching the league and you're thinking, can there please be three worse teams than us? And you're sort of factoring in and hoping that Wolves might be, one of those. They've just given Vitor Pereira a new contract, and you're thinking, well, maybe he's a good manager. We could see that last season when he came in. You're thinking, maybe they're going to turn the corner now. This is a worry. It's a big worry for West Ham. But yeah, mutiny at West Ham. Potter walking around like the Walking Dead, wondering what the hell's going on. New manager, no infrastructure, which has been torn down. I said it on numerous occasions. I will say it again. What the hell was going on with that statement that the club did as a response to fans saying we're building our recruitment strategy around forward thinking Graham Potter and Carl McCauley, and then and you look at it now, it just looks horrendous. If nothing else, I'd say that is a microcosm, or that is very symbolic of what is wrong at West Ham. That statement of intent, that statement of why West Ham are going to progress in terms of recruitment and young players, and how we had these two young forward-thinking coach and a young forward-thinking head of recruitment, and how this was going to drive us forward. And as they're saying these words, as these words are spilling out of their mouth, or they're typing this statement out, they're plotting to sack both of them. The thing is absolutely crazy. It really is. Anyway, I think I've done very well for that camera not to have literally fallen off its perch. It's like that. So, anyway, I'll catch up with you tomorrow.